Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
Remove the belt cover here. Spray some rust penetrant on this bolt and nut, and a little bit on this nut, a little bit on this bolt here. Use a 10mm socket, extension, and ratchet. Remove this one, and remove this one here. Take the nut off. I'm going to remove this cover, just pull it off. It does have the throttle cable and the cruise control cable clipped to it. Pull it up and unclip it. It pulls straight up. Normally that's clipped in there, just over time it's gotten old and cracked. So the clip came right out. We're going to go flip this over and push that one out. And we can just put this aside. This particular vehicle doesn't use an auto tensioner for the belts. It has two separate dry belts, both with manual tensioners. So you need to adjust these and set your belt tension. And the same for the other one down here that runs the air conditioning pulley. And these belts feel fairly tight, but they are squealing. And you can typically, the belts do stretch over time. You could try to readjust them, but these are looking pretty worn. They've got a lot of rust staining on them. And basically every time you start the car when it's cold, they squeal really loudly. And once they start to squeal, they're kind of ruined. We're going to replace them with new belts from 1A Auto and retension them, and we'll have brand new belts. We need to loosen the alternator bolts. I'll spray some rust penetrant on here. Bolt goes all the way through. 12mm bolts. Let's get it loose. Now we can loosen the tensioner. The tensioner here has two bolts, one to set the tension and then one under here to lock it in place on the bracket. You need to remove or loosen, actually, you don't need to fully remove it, just loosen the locking bolt underneath before you try to release the tension, or else it's not going to move on you and you could break this bracket. Loosen this bolt using 12mm socket, extension, and ratchet. You don't have to take it all the way out, just get it loose. It goes all the way through into the alternator. That should be good enough. See, it's still tension. Now I can loosen this. Make sure that before you loosen the tensioner bolts, or attempt to loosen the tensioner bolt, that you loosen the alternator bolts. It should make it easier to turn because it's not trying to push against the alternator. Even still, after doing this, our tensioner bolt broke because it was frozen into the little bracket piece that is bolted in the alternator. So just make sure that you have an extra bolt on hand. If your vehicle is very rusty, it might break. Tensioner loose, push the alternator down. Pull the belt right off. Slide it in between here. You can see some wear. It's kind of worn smooth. And the outside's pretty rough. If you just want to replace the alternator power steering belt, you can stop here. But to replace the air conditioning belt, you do need to take off this belt first. So now we can take off the air conditioning belt. There's also a manual tensioner here. There is a tensioner pulley there. I'm going to spray rust penetrant on that nut because it needs to be loose. and on the tensioner rib here. And I will clean off all of the oil off of the pulleys before I install the new belts. This is a 12mm socket. I'm going to loosen this nut. It's on the tensioner pulley. It's a little rusty. Just kind of finding my way on here. Break this free. This one is just very, very rusty, so it is moving. But you need to loosen this first, because there is a groove here that it slides in to tension. So there, it's nice and loose. So I'll work this off. Socket might get stuck on there because of the rust. I'm just kind of wiggle it off. Well, the ratchet's going to come first. The socket's a little stuck in there. It is pretty close to the fan. I'll slide that out of there. That's okay. I'll work on getting that off. I'm going to take some locking pliers and just go down and try to grab it. And at the same time, adjust them so they lock on here. You don't need to crush it, but you just need to get enough leverage. There it is. Now I'm going to use the 12mm and an extension here. I'll loosen this one. This one's loosening up nice and easily. And you can see it's pulling the tensioner up. And you'll start to see the belt get really loose. Not quite there. Looks pretty loose. It's pretty loose. You can just kind of slide it off. Just like that. It's going to go down around the tensioner, off the crank pulley. I'll pull it right off. This one does have some wearing. Where it's sliding on the pulleys and making noise, it almost looks like a tire, like you did a burnout with it, or it kind of wears. I'm gonna use some brake parts cleaner, clean the pulleys off. Any of the rust penetrant I sprayed on there. Little bits of rubber here that are stuck inside the pulley that are worn off from the belt. You can use a wire brush to break them free and clean them out of there. Let's go around the pulley. If you have access to compressed air, you can also blow off the pulley. Do the same for all of them. We should spin freely. The crank one won't really spin freely on you because it's attached to the engine. But just kind of work your way around the outside of the crank pulley as best you can. So here are some things to look for when you're inspecting your belts. When you're looking at dry belts under the hood of the car, you want to look for cracks like this in the rubber. This belt is worn out. These little grooves can actually start to fall apart, and then the belt won't have any grooves on it because they're all dry rotted and cracked. And the back of it is like real dry and worn. There's a little bit of fraying on the edges. So this belt, and you can feel it in this belt, and actually you can see it over here. Part of the ribs are starting to fall apart. But this belt is really hard. It's not very flexible. It's really past its prime and needs to be replaced. And this one here, this one was making noise. It was squealing. You can see that it's got like worn rubber marks. Like it looks like a tire you were doing burnouts or something. You get those worn tire marks, and the rubber wears. And it also has some fraying around the edges. and the grooves are kind of worn. So this belt is no good if we compare it to a nice new belt. It's really flexible, the grooves are nice and thick, they've got plenty of good rubber on them. There's no fraying or anything. And the other thing too, sometimes with a car that has an automatic tensioner, you won't hear the belt squeal as it starts to wear out because the automatic tensioner will take up the slack as the belt stretches. Whereas a belt that's on a manual tensioner, as it starts to wear, it will start to slip. And then once it starts to slip, it kind of ruins the belt. You can try to retension it, but you should really just replace it. Start with the belt for the air conditioning system. So we're going to slide it down. It goes towards the inside of the crank pulley. There's 2 sets of grooves. This is going to go in the inner groove. You also want to reach it down and over the tensioner bracket. It's going to go underneath the tensioner bracket and then up and over. Don't worry about getting in all the grooves yet. I'm going to get it kind of close. Get it set up on the crank pulley first. Make sure it's seated. Start there. It's going around the tensioner pulley. It probably won't be touching it because it's loose. Kind of work it up and over the AC compressor. There it is. So it's nice, it's really loose. Tension's not set, but it is in all of the grooves. So now I want to set the tension on it. So I'm going to tighten the tensioner bolt. This might take a little while because the bolt's very long. And I can see the belt starting to tension. I'm going to lift up the alternator a little bit. The alternator will not be touching this in the car normally, but I'm just going to lift it up out of the way. So make sure I get a good tension on it. And it's kind of something you have to do by feel. For a new belt, the specification is about 22 pounds of force. It will deflect 7 to 9 millimeters. And I'm just sort of estimating that by feel, because I don't have the factory gauge to check it, and most people aren't going to. You can kind of do it by feel. They don't feel too loose, but they don't feel overly tight. So I'm going to give it one more turn, and I'm pretty happy with that. You can always come back and adjust them after you run the car. Oh, see, that feels a lot tighter. I think that's too tight. I'm going to back it off just a little bit. I like that there. With that tight, we need to tighten the pulley so that the pulley doesn't move. Torque on these is about 16. Torque on this is 16 foot-pounds. It's not very heavy, but I'm going to do it by feel because this one is kind of rusty. Don't over tighten it, go to 16 foot-pounds. That's tight there. And install the alternator and power steering pump pulley. Let's get this down in here. Feed it down in the front of the engine. Down and around the pulley. Make sure it's seated. The alternator is loose. I can push this down. Go around the power steering pump. All right, so it popped off the crank pulley. That's going to be the trickiest part, is getting it to stay on the crank pulley. I want to do the alternator last. Although if you have to, you can slide it up over the alternator. Clearance is tight, but you can't get in here. And sometimes if you make sure it's all the way on one of these other pulleys, it will flip down over the crank. Don't want to use a pry bar to put these on, to pry the belt on. You can ruin the belt. I've got my hand down here. I'm going to hold it near the crank pulley, and then I'm going to pop it off the top of the alternator pulley, slide it over the crank pulley. I can see it's still over the power steering pump pulley. And push the alternator down a bit and kind of work it on. The alternator doesn't go down far enough. You can loosen this bolt up, push it down a little bit more. So that is at the bottom of the bracket. Oop, see, it popped out of the power steering pump bracket pulley. Because if it's not fully seated in the pulley, it's not going to have enough give. And this is good that the belt is nice and tight, because it starts out nice and tight. So you just kind of work it over. There it is. So it wasn't quite seated in the crank pulley. It gave me a little tension trying to put it over the alternator pulley. But now I can see it's in all of the pulleys. It's seated nice and even. Now we can start to tension this back up. You can actually pull this up a bit by hand. And so I don't have to thread this forever. I'm going to thread it down by hand. Tighten this up. Again, I'm going to do that by feel. A couple more. It's the same specification with about 22 foot-pounds. With 22 pounds of force, it should be a deflection of 7 to 9 millimeters. I think I'm happy with that right there. Now I've got the belt tensioned. Gonna lock our tensioner in place. This is 16 foot-pounds. I will do it by feel. Don't over tighten it, because you don't want to break the ear on the alternator. So it gets tight. I will stop. And the final step, I'm going to lock the alternator in place now. So retighten this bolt here. A little extension. This bracket needs to go straight up and down. Feel it get tight, and I'll stop. You can start the car to check the tension and readjust if necessary. I'll reinstall the plastic cover. Let's get this little plastic part. It's going to sit in this rubber mount. Push it down into place. Also feed it over this stud that's over here. Reinstall the screw, reinstall the nut, reinstall this bolt here. Clip our throttle cable, cruise control cables back in. Some later vehicles might not have these.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.